Go ahead. Make my day.
Well, that line belongs to a later chapter. But Magnum Force gave us something equally legendary. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on 21 wild, weird, and genuinely surprising facts about the 1973 sequel that changed the Dirty Harry franchise forever. Behind-the-scenes secrets, casting bombshells, hidden political statements, and one bonus fact so strange it almost sounds made up. Almost. Stay all the way to the end for that one. You will not see it coming. Welcome to Rewatch Club, where every rewatch reveals something brand new. Number 1. The political flip nobody saw coming. After Dirty Harry hit theaters in 1971, critics, most famously the influential Pauline Kael of The New Yorker, called it a fascist film. She argued that Harry Callahan glorified authoritarian policing and vigilante justice. Clint Eastwood was furious, not because he felt the criticism was entirely without merit, but because he believed the film had been deeply misread. So, when it came time to make the sequel, Eastwood and his team made a calculated, deliberate decision. The villains of Magnum Force would be the actual fascists, the motorcycle cops executing criminals without trial. They are the bad guys. Harry, the man everyone had labeled a fascist, is the one who stops them.
I'll be on the back at the pier just in case anybody makes a break for it. If there's going to be any trouble, I suppose that's where it'll start.
It remains one of the most pointed political rebuttals ever embedded inside a mainstream Hollywood sequel, and most audiences watching in 1973 had absolutely no idea they were witnessing it. Number 2. John Milius, the mad genius behind the script. Before he wrote Apocalypse Now, a film home to one of cinema's most quoted lines, or directed Conan the Barbarian, a young, fierce writer named John Milius sat down and crafted the original script for Magnum Force. Milius was notorious in Hollywood for his love of mythology, conflict, and raw masculine energy, and you can feel all of that coursing through this film. He was part of the same legendary USC film school generation as George Lucas and Steven Spielberg, the group that would reshape American cinema forever. His original draft was reportedly darker and more provocative than what ultimately ended up on screen. It's worth pausing on that for a moment, by the same mind that would later give us
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
helped lay the creative foundation for Dirty Harry's second chapter. Number 3. Michael Cimino's hidden fingerprints. Here's something most fans never realize. Magnum Force was co-written by Michael Cimino, the man who would later direct The Deer Hunter in 1978, win the Academy Award for Best Picture and Best Director, and then push Heaven's Gate so catastrophically over budget that it helped bring down an entire movie studio. At the time of Magnum Force, Cimino was a relatively unknown writer just cracking into the industry. He reworked and co-developed Milius' script into the final shooting draft. His fingerprints are all over the film's moral complexity, particularly the way the story forces Harry to confront colleagues he genuinely respects who have crossed a line no good cop should ever cross. Two of Hollywood's most legendary and controversial writers helped shape one of the most beloved action sequels ever made. That's either remarkable coincidence or the universe showing off. Number 4. Don Siegel said no. The man who directed the original Dirty Harry was Don Siegel, one of the true craftsmen of Hollywood cinema, and a filmmaker Clint Eastwood genuinely admired and had learned from enormously. But when the sequel came knocking, Siegel passed. He simply didn't want to repeat himself. So the studio turned to Ted Post, a director with a long and comfortable working history with Eastwood, stretching all the way back to their days together on the TV series Rawhide and the 1968 Western Hang 'em High. Post wasn't a flashy director, but he understood Eastwood's rhythms and instincts deeply, and he knew how to keep a production moving efficiently without sacrificing quality. Many fans note that the change of director gave Magnum Force a slightly different texture, grittier, more procedural, compared to the raw, more primal energy of the original. Once you know it, you can genuinely feel it. Number 5. David Soul, the villain before he was a hero. And here's a small tease, because we have a bonus fact at the end that builds directly on this one, and it is genuinely one for the ages. 2 years before he became the beloved Ken Hutchinson on the smash television hit Starsky and Hutch, David Soul played Officer Davis, one of the cold-blooded vigilante motorcycle cops who serves as a primary villain in Magnum Force.
I'm John Davis. This is Phil Sweet. That's Red Astrachan. Mike Grimes.
It is a surreal thing to watch today. The man who would become one of television's most iconic good guys is here, behind that dark visor, executing mobsters in cold blood with terrifying composure. Soul was a charismatic young actor still searching for his breakout role at the time. He found it spectacularly in a direction no one watching this film could possibly have predicted. If you're a Starsky and Hutch fan who has never seen this film, prepare to be genuinely stunned. Number 6. Robert Urich, another future star among the villains. David Soul wasn't the only future television star hiding behind those motorcycle helmets. Robert Urich, who would go on to headline shows like Vegas in 1978 and The Beloved Spencer. For hire throughout the 1980s, played Officer Grimes, another core member of the Vigilante Squad. Urich had a natural movie star magnetism that practically leaped off the screen, even in a supporting villain role. There's a reason directors kept noticing him in rooms full of actors. In hindsight, watching both Soul and Urich as cold-blooded killers, knowing the heroic television personas they were each about to build, feels like watching two origin stories being accidentally written in reverse. Magnum Force gave both men crucial early screen time, and Hollywood clearly took note. The road to becoming a hero, it turns out, sometimes begins with playing a very convincing villain. Number 7. Hal Holbrook's chilling mastermind. The architect behind the vigilante squad isn't some criminal kingpin operating in the shadows. It's one of Harry's own superior officers. Lieutenant Neil Briggs, played by Hal Holbrook, is the film's true villain, and Holbrook plays him with a devastating, unsettling calm that never once breaks.
We're holding the other squads back until you've made your arrest. Yours is the most important. It'll be the first. We don't want any foul-ups.
What makes the performance so effective is how reasonable Briggs sounds. He is articulate, measured, even persuasive. He genuinely believes he is right. Holbrook was already a celebrated stage actor by this point, and would go on to earn an Oscar nomination for All the President's Men just a few years later. What makes Briggs so deeply chilling is what he represents. The enemy isn't a rogue criminal. It's the institution itself, wearing a badge, speaking in perfectly logical sentences, and truly believing in everything it's doing. Holbrook understood that completely, and his performance remains one of the most underrated villain turns in all of 1970s cinema. Number 8. The budget that punched way above its weight. Magnum Force was produced on a reportedly modest budget, around $4 million, which was not a particularly large sum even by 1973 standards for a major studio action film. Yet, the film looked and felt like it cost significantly more. Extensive location shooting across San Francisco saved substantially on set construction, while simultaneously giving the film an authentic, textured realism no studio backlot could have replicated. The result was staggering. The film earned over $39 million at the North American box office alone, making it one of the most profitable films of the entire year and actually outperforming the original Dirty Harry's domestic gross. That is not just a successful sequel, that is a financial phenomenon. It proved what the best filmmakers have always known. When the material is strong enough and the production smart enough, a modest budget is absolutely no obstacle to delivering something audiences will pay to see again and again. Number 9. San Francisco as a living, breathing character. Like its predecessor, Magnum Force was shot almost entirely on location in San Francisco. And the city doesn't simply serve as a backdrop. It functions as a genuine character in the story. The filmmakers used real streets, real docks, the actual port, and real neighborhoods throughout the city, giving the film a documentary-like authenticity that was very much aligned with the raw, street-level cinema movement defining American filmmaking in the 1970s. Cinematographer Frank Stanley captured the city with a cool, slightly detached eye, making San Francisco feel simultaneously beautiful and quietly menacing. A place that looks ordered and functional on the surface, while something deeply wrong festers underneath. For fans who love the city, watching Magnum Force today is like stepping into a time capsule of early 1970s San Francisco. Raw, real, and completely unpolished. The city has changed enormously since then. The film, remarkably, has not. Number 10. The .44 Magnum returns. The most powerful handgun in the world. The Smith & Wesson Model 29, Harry Callahan's iconic .44 Magnum, was already a legend after the first film. In Magnum Force, it returns, and its presence carries an almost mythological weight. What many fans don't realize is that the Model 29 was a relatively rare and specialized firearm at the time, far outside standard police issue equipment. Its use by Harry was a deliberate creative choice to set him visually and symbolically apart from the institutional police world surrounding him.
Oh, no, sir. No, I don't think so. Come on.
Oh, go on, sweet.
By the time Magnum Force hit screens, the .44 Magnum had become so deeply associated with Clint Eastwood that Smith & Wesson reportedly saw a notable increase in public inquiries about the Model 29 following both films. Pop culture had done something remarkable. It had transformed a firearm into a cinematic icon as immediately recognizable as any prop in Hollywood history. Number 11. Clint Eastwood's creative iron grip. By the time Magnum Force was in production, Clint Eastwood was not merely a movie star. He was a quietly dominant creative force reshaping how Hollywood operated. His production company, Malpaso Productions, co-produced the film, giving Eastwood significant control over casting, the script, and the film's overall creative direction. This kind of actor-driven production control was still genuinely unusual in the early 1970s. Most stars worked within the studio system and took what they were given. Eastwood was already rewriting the rules. His presence is precisely why the sequel feels so tonally consistent with the original, despite having a completely different director at the helm. And critically, Eastwood's firm insistence that Harry must clearly and unambiguously oppose the vigilante squad, that there could be no moral gray area about where Harry stands, was the single defining creative decision that made the film's entire moral argument work. Number 12. The motorcycle cops that defined the film's visual identity. The imagery of those faceless motorcycle cops, crisp uniforms, dark visors, executing criminals with cold mechanical precision, became the undeniable visual signature of Magnum Force. It's a masterclass in using costume and visual design to manufacture dread. The decision to keep the villains largely hidden behind helmets through the film's entire first half was deliberate, designed to build mystery and a slow-burning sense of unease. The audience senses something is deeply wrong long before Harry does, creating an almost Hitchcockian undercurrent of tension running beneath every scene. Crucially, the uniforms weren't custom-designed horror costumes. They were styled after authentic California Motorcycle Patrol uniforms, making the villains look completely and disturbingly legitimate at a glance. These were not criminals in disguise. They were men who looked exactly like what they claimed to be. Evil, the film reminds us, doesn't always wear a mask. If you're enjoying this deep dive, hit that like button and subscribe to RewatchClub. Every single like genuinely helps us keep making videos exactly like this one. And while you're down there in the comments, tell us, did you prefer the original Dirty Harry or Magnum Force? We already made a full video on the first film. Go check it out and let us know which one wins for you. And remember, we still have that bonus fact coming at the very end. Number 13. The title that said everything. Before the film had its iconic name, the project was developed under the working title Dirty Harry 2. Functional, yes. Poetic, not exactly. The title Magnum Force carries deliberate layers of meaning. On the surface, it references the .44 Magnum, Harry's defining weapon. But force speaks directly to the film's central moral question. What kind of force is actually justified, and who has the right to decide? It's a title that functions simultaneously as a sequel hook and a philosophical provocation. Compare that to the elegant simplicity of Dirty Harry, a title that gave a character his defining identity in just 2 words. And you see the same thinking at work. The best film titles don't merely describe the movie. They ask the audience something. Magnum Force does exactly that before a single frame has appeared on screen. 2 words, everything inside them. Number 14. A premise built on real 1970s fears. The concept of vigilante cops secretly executing criminals wasn't science fiction or pure Hollywood invention. It tapped directly into genuine, widespread anxieties circulating across early 1970s America. Crime rates in major cities were climbing sharply and visibly. Public trust in institutions, already shattered by Vietnam and the unfolding Watergate scandal, was in freefall. Some citizens, and even some within law enforcement, openly debated whether the justice system was functionally broken beyond repair. The vigilante cops in Magnum Force, as morally monstrous as their actions are, were expressing a frustration that enormous numbers of real people were actively feeling. The film doesn't endorse that frustration, but it takes it seriously enough to examine it honestly. That's precisely what elevates Magnum Force above a simple action thriller. It's a film in genuine, uncomfortable dialogue with the fears and rage of the society that produced it. Number 15. A line that outlasted the film itself.
Man's got to know his limitations.
It is one of the most enduring lines in Clint Eastwood's entire career, and it lands at the very end of Magnum Force with quiet, devastating precision. Harry delivers it while watching the film's villain, the man who tried to destroy him, meet a spectacularly fitting end. The line is simultaneously a warning, a piece of cold, practical wisdom, and a kind of dark poetry. It was written into the script, but Eastwood's delivery, unhurried, completely certain, almost weary with the weight of it, transformed it from dialogue into legend. It has since been referenced in other films, television shows, political speeches, sporting broadcasts, and casual everyday conversation. Of all the memorable lines across the entire Dirty Harry franchise, this one may be the one that has aged the most powerfully. Short sentences, said slowly, by someone who means every single word. Number 16. Warner Brothers wanted it yesterday. After Dirty Harry became a massive cultural and commercial phenomenon in 1971, Warner Brothers wanted a sequel with what could most generously be described as urgent enthusiasm. The studio understood it had something rare, a character that audiences had genuinely fallen for, played by a star at the absolute peak of his commercial drawing power. Clint Eastwood, however, was not going to be rushed into anything. He wanted the sequel to earn its existence through merit rather than simply exploit the original's momentum. The resulting tension between studio urgency and Eastwood's creative standards played out over roughly 2 years of development, a significant weight by sequel standards of the era. That friction, ultimately, made the film stronger. Magnum Force arrived not as a hasty cash grab cranked out on a tight schedule, but as a film with something deliberate and pointed to say. Studio impatience, met squarely with creative patience, produced something that has genuinely lasted. Number 17. The sequel that built an entire franchise. Magnum Force wasn't just a successful sequel. It was the film that confirmed Dirty Harry was a franchise. By delivering even stronger box office numbers than the original, it opened the door to 3 more films. The Enforcer in 1976, Sudden Impact in 1983, and The Deadpool in 1988. Clint Eastwood starred in all 5, spanning a remarkable 15-year run with the same character, while also directing Sudden Impact himself. That kind of sustained franchise commitment from a serious and selective actor of Eastwood's caliber is genuinely extraordinary by any measure, and it all rested on Magnum Force Landing. One failed sequel, and there is no franchise, just one great film, standing alone. By the way, we've already made a full video on the original Dirty Harry. Have you seen it? And we genuinely want to know. Which film in the franchise do you think is the strongest? Tell us in the comments. Number 18. The finale that flipped everything. The climax of Magnum Force is one of the great reversals in 1970s action cinema, and it deserves significantly more credit than it typically receives. After spending the entire film tracking a vigilante operation that kills without mercy or accountability, Harry defeats the mastermind, Lieutenant Briggs, not in a conventional blazing gun battle, but by turning Briggs' own cold, calculating logic directly against him.
Uphold the law.
You just killed 3 police officers, Harry.
Harry rigs a booby trap using Briggs' own weapon and detonates it remotely. The man who believed he had risen entirely above the law is destroyed by the same precise mechanical methodology he applied so casually to his own victims. It is poetic justice delivered with surgical precision. Harry then walks away, says the line, and the film simply ends. No swelling triumphant score, no crowd cheering, just a quiet man who understood his own limits and made absolutely certain that someone else learned theirs the hard way. Number 19. Suzanne Somers, Hiding in Plain Sight. Here's one that genuinely surprises people every single time. Suzanne Somers, the actress who became a massive cultural phenomenon just a few years later as Chrissy Snow on Three's Company, appears in Magnum Force in a role so small it barely qualifies as a cameo. She's visible during the pool party sequence, appearing essentially as background scenery with no meaningful dialogue whatsoever. Somers was still in the very early stages of her career at the time, picking up small film and television appearances wherever she could find them. Just 4 years after Magnum Force, she would become one of the most recognizable faces on American television. Watching the film today, knowing that fact adds a genuinely strange layer to the experience. A future superstar lurking quietly in the background of a Dirty Harry sequel, completely unknown, on the very edge of something enormous she can't yet see. Look carefully. She's there. Number 20. A legacy built on real moral questions. What separates Magnum Force from most action films of its era, or any era, is its genuine willingness to sit with moral complexity rather than resolve it cleanly and move on. Harry Callahan is not a simple, uncomplicated hero. He bends rules. He operates at the outer edges of what's lawful. His methods are not always defensible, and the film knows it. The vigilante cops, meanwhile, are not wrong about the specific criminals they target. Those people are genuinely dangerous, and the legal system has demonstrably failed to contain them.
It's Charlie McCoy. He's ready for the rubber gun squad. He even tried to kill himself.
But their methods are still indefensible. The film asks Harry, and asks the audience in the theater, to draw a moral line and articulate clearly and honestly why that line exists where it does. That is a rare, genuinely demanding thing for a mainstream action film to ask. Magnum Force didn't just entertain people in 1973. It asked them to think. 50 years later, that question still has no easy answer. Number 21. Bonus fact. The future star convention nobody planned. All right, here it is. The bonus fact I've been building toward, and I promise you, it is genuinely one of those things that sounds too strange to be true until you verify it for yourself. The vigilante motorcycle cops at the core of Magnum Force were played by a group of young actors. Among them, David Soul, who, as we covered, became Hutch on Starsky, and Hutch just 2 years after this film. Robert Urich, who went on to headline Vegas and Spencer, For Hire, and Tim Matheson, who went on to play the beloved Otter in National Lampoon's Animal House in 1978, one of the most iconic American comedy films ever produced. 3 future stars of American pop culture, all cast as cold-blooded vigilante killers in the same film, all obscured behind those dark motorcycle helmets, none of them yet the household names they were absolutely about to become. Nobody planned it. Nobody predicted it. The camera just kept pointing at future legends, and nobody in the room knew it yet. That, right there, is the quiet, accidental magic of cinema, preserved perfectly in 1973, waiting for someone patient enough to look closely and notice. 50 years on, Magnum Force holds up not just as an action thriller, but as a film that trusted its audience with genuine moral weight and expected them to carry it. That's rare. That's why we're still talking about it. If this video hit the spot, please hit that like button and subscribe to RewatchClub. And if you walk away without subscribing, well, a man's got to know his limitations. Don't be that person. Drop a comment below. Which moment from Magnum Force still gives you chills? And tell us, should our next video cover The Enforcer? Or is there another movie you're absolutely desperate to see us dig into? That choice is genuinely yours. See you at the next rewatch.